Hey, what's up guys, this is Oakley, and we're going to be following up our last video. Last video I showed you a Seleucid build that is very powerful. It relies on 2 elephants, 2 chariots, heavy cav, and then it follows it up with thorax spearmen. So I was going to use Rome and try and see if I could come up with a counter build. Now, as you can see, look at my groupings below. I brought 4 artillery, 2 gladiator spearmen. I figured that would be good enough to hold off the cavalry, the chariots, and the elephants. Spears should be the best way to counter those guys. I've also brought Syrian archers and javelin men to take care of elephants, make them run amok, and then legionaries to hold up the core. And then I also brought these 2 ballista units that I was intending to take out maybe larger targets such as elephants or large cavalry groupings. Anyways, I also have hidden units in the back. Those are going to be my heavier Praetorians, and I have some hidden units right there on the side woods. That's where my archers are at. I'm going to start reforming. I'm going to target his guys on the left. That's going to be a juicy target for me. And I'm going to start reforming my line. My opponent, seeing that I have these artillery pieces, is going to do everything he can to approach me from the woods. He doesn't obviously want to attack straight up, so that's the best way I would say in dealing with artillery is don't let them get straight shots off at you, especially with these guys. And take a look at this. I did definitely hit them, but it only did 2 damage, even though there was a straight shot through the flank. You would think it would pierce more horses than that. So I got 2 kills and 1 volley. I guess that's good enough as long as I can keep up the supporting fire. So I tell one of them to fire that way, and the other one I'm trying to reform. I don't want to have both of my guys trained on the same way. Anyways, he's pushing this flank here, and I'm going to try and retreat. I have artillery here, so in case he charges through, I'll be able to counter that, but I got to get my archers out of there because the rest of his army is coming soon. These guys I'm going to tell to face, come about face. I'm reforming my line. He's going to keep charging through here, and I figure my archers are dead, so I'm going to tell them to turn around and start shooting. Anyways, now I'm going to try and actually bring them back. I'm going to tell my artillery piece to face that way, and I'm trying to edge his guys out, not allow them to get around my flanks, and then at the same time continue to put pressure on his guys with my artillery pieces. The show of force that I have here is going to be enough to dissuade him from pushing too hard on that flank. I'm going to tell my ballista unit to keep shooting at him. Meanwhile, he's moved up some slingers to put pressure on me. I'm trying to find gaps in my line with his own guys. Looks like here I'm going to be able to catch his cavalry. I'm going to go up into defensive formation, and it looks like I've been able to retreat some of my guys into the safety of my triera. I'm going to fast move those guys up, but the main problem right now is my opponent has thought of this type of engagement. He knows that, if he can't get me to budge, then he's going to have to move in with his long-range slinger. So it looks like my opponent came up with an even better build with using the Seleucids, which is going to be to utilize slingers as well to provoke an engagement. Anyways, I'm going to try and chase them off with my general unit. Of course, I'm not going to actually engage, it's just to push them back. I see that my siege equipment is sort of getting opened up with my troops, so I tell one unit to keep shooting over there, the other one is going to shoot at his troops here, and I move my guys back into formation. I've isolated one of his cavalry units over here, so I'm going to go ahead and charge them, chase them down with my cavalry. Keep my core nice and tight, keep my opponent from engaging. I'm going to move these guys back. Looks like I've done enough damage. Anyways, these spearmen in the back are going to turn around, try and keep his cataphracts from getting in here. You can see the rest of my forces are kind of forced back into the nest of protection of my main body. I'm going to reform my spears on the outside. And over here it looks like I've got superiority against his cavalry. And my opponent is going to try and link up with the rest of his cavalry. Going to keep putting on shots on his men, looking for a juicier target to maybe shoot with these guys. I tell them to halt fire because I don't want to waste all my ammo. I'm going to save it for the elephants, which my opponent is cleverly sending around the flank. And is right here, my opponent gets a 2-on-1, but I also have 2 Praetorians against his guys. And I'm going to move in some gladiators and my general, so I figure that should be enough. My opponent is bringing in even more cavalry. That's a good move. He's going to try and basically get rid of all my components around the flanks and force me to be just a little ball here, get rid of my cavalry support. So that's probably a good move. And now he's going to be moving in with another force. You can see over here my Praetorians have actually gotten decimated. I'm not quite sure how that worked, considering I had 2 Praetorians, some of the best cavalry I could have against 2 of his. I don't know how he managed to basically whittle down one of my Praetorians so quickly, given the fact that I was shooting at his men. So, I'm complaining a little bit there. You can even see I get some of my spearmen in the mix, so those guys will hopefully be able to turn the fight. He's sending in more of his cavalry units. I'm going to try and reform here with my peltis, my velites. You can see I have overwhelming forces down there. I should be able to knock him out. I've caught some of his cavalry here unawares, going to shoot him with my archers, going to keep reforming. His main line is pushing my front, so I'm going to move these guys back into position, and I have my velites in close support, so my opponent doesn't want to get too close. He's wary. He's going to move in his own slingers instead. Let's see right here, I've driven off his cavalry, but here comes the kicker of this game, and that's going to be when he moves in his chariot unit. You can see I mopped up these guys here. I'm going to go ahead and fall back. Looks like I've neutralized a pretty good amount of his forces. I have a lot of spears left, a lot of infantry, and I think I'm doing pretty well for myself. So let's go ahead and see what happens in the battle. I'm going to reform these guys, tell my archers to target his chariots. And it looks like the chariots are going to come and they're going to start swarming in to my right side. I'm going to push on the left because I have 3 units against his 3. Going to even send him some cavalry, try and knock out that flank and hold down the right side with my spearmen and my mass infantry here. Anyways, you can see I put my spears on as braced as they possibly can be. My spears are going to be in square formation. I figure that's as densely packed as they can be, so that should be the ultimate bracing against chariots. You can see that still doesn't stop them. My opponent just keeps clicking through. He's able to just go right through my units, melt through spears, the best spears that the Romans can have. And he's just wreaking havoc on this entire blob. All he has to do is point and click and just keep charging those guys through. They do so much damage, it's ridiculous. So even though I had gotten superiority, you can go back and trace my moves this game. I think I did pretty well. And this is going to be sort of a turning point of the battle, is when he's able to charge through with those chariots right there and just stomp through my guys right there. That's going to change the balance of forces because it starts to crumble. My units here, my triarii are going to start falling apart, my gladiators are going to start falling apart, and it means that on this side I don't have as much support as I once had. I can't push out as readily as I was about to, and so my opponent's going to start pushing here. And the battle on the back, now that I've been sort of forced to chase off his chariots and I've been pushed into disarray, means that his elephants are now going to be moving into the fight. So, you know, I can't completely fault my my opponent's build. He is definitely thinking smartly about engagements. He's throwing in his units at the right time. The elephants, saving them to the last moment, keeping them away from my artillery pieces was probably a very good move. And so now he's going to be poisoning them right here. I'm going to try and keep his own units here who are in disarray from engaging with my troops here. I'm going to swing my cavalry around the side, and I believe that triarii and some armored legionnaires should be able to take his peltas if I can land some hammer and anvils. Anyways, I'm going to go into flaming shot and try and stop his Indian armored elephants as they move in. However, you can see in the back he does still have chariots. I'm going to reform these forces here. And over here, it looks like I'm going to try and get around the side, guarding my artillery pieces still. It's the core of my force. These triarii are holding up relatively well, but now here come the elephants, and I'm going to try and stop them. I have my spears ready to go, and now here comes the problem once more. I tell my units to stop moving. That should be able to stop his chariots, but it doesn't really. My opponent just keeps clicking, spamming that click button, which will get them to keep moving. So those chariots do an infinite amount of damage. His elephants come in, strike my units, get out. He causes fear amongst my troops, and these chariots are still doing tremendous damage. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and put these guys on loose formation, which is not loose, but break the unit formation, whatever. I land a strike with Draco, so I'm basically doing everything you should be doing in order to knock his guys out. These chariots still have a bunch of guys wrecking me. The elephants on the other side at the same time have wrecked those forces there. My general's going after his skirmishers, but you can see just how the snowball effect is turning right now when he has more and more of these troops, these elephants and these chariots. I finally rout some of them. But the fact that they're able to come in and knock out such huge masses of men, even though I did do the bracing, even though I shot at them, is somewhat frustrating, I would say, in this battle. Anyways, I'm going to try and reform my battle line and try and salvage the situation. I'm going to engage with my spears, and I'm going to reform these legionnaires, try and help out in the battle here. My Praetorians that charged into the back of his peltas and landed a Draco somehow ended up being extremely mangled in the fight. I'm not sure how that happened. But yeah, they're in no shape to engage in another fight. They're going to get killed. So I'm going to go ahead and try and salvage the situation. As I say, on the right, my spears are engaging with his elephants. I hope to take him out. I'm going to pull my general out of the fight because it's at least drawing his cavalry away from the battle, and I don't want my general to die right away. Going to break up that, and I don't want to charge into these guys, seeing how much damage he did to me last time. Anyways, even chasing me down, the spears that they throw just ended up killing me anyways. So you can tell I'm getting a little bit frustrated with the outcome of the battle. And like that, all the rest of my units start breaking up. So that's going to be how it went down. I have not found an effective counter to the Seleucid build just yet. You would have thought that a lot of spears and my tactics and the artillery pieces did well, but again, kudos to my opponents. I'll continue to search for a build that can counter it. Hey guys, I decided I'd come back, and this is going to be a recording after the recording. I just took a look at that end screen again, and I can't just let that be. In the past, I was like, okay, you know, this build might be a little overpowered, but there's probably a way to counter it. Taking a look at this, there's definitely something wrong with the way the game is working. I mean, look at just the sheer numbers. So I brought almost 1,800 men, he brought about half, 945, but take a look at how the kills came out. That's absurd. Look at my triarii. I have 5 triarii, the highest level spears that Rome can bring, and take a look at that. 28 kills, 16 kills, 0, 0, and 4. My gladiators barely got any more. Actually, the most effective unit I had were those ballista units, so I guess maybe that's an effective counter, who knows. And besides that, take a look at his units. He was able to bring 3 scythe chariots. I'm not sure if you're supposed to be able to do that. Anyways, he has 3 of those, so 152, 234, 176. Then you have at the top, at least I was able to neutralize his cavalry. I think that I did that pretty effectively, but his armored elephants got 177. My own cavalry, 1749. I just don't really know what to say with the stats. Anyways, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. This is definitely something that needs to be addressed by CA. I think we're just going to be seeing this build and this exploit a lot more in the future, and it really keeps me from enjoying the game when you see what looks like, okay, maybe a balanced game at the least, but I had a lot of spears and I had 2 artillery pieces. If that's not going to be able to counter a bunch of spears and chariots, then I don't know what is. Anyways, thanks so much for allowing me to come back and discuss that a little more. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.